Okay. So hello, I'm Gavin Jackson. I'm the economics and finance correspondent with The Economist, and I'm joined today by Cécile Cabanis, who's the currently deputy CEO of Tikehau Capital, which is an alternative asset manager focused on sustainable investment. And we're here today to talk about the role of asset managers in creating sustainable growth. Cécile is a great person to talk about this with because she has experience on both the financial and the corporate side. Before she was at Thibault, she was the CFO of Danone, where duties included responsibility for sustainability, and she was in charge of Danone's internal venture capital company. So I guess our topic, the role of asset managers in creating sustainable growth, that implies a question before we even get started. Do asset managers have a role in creating sustainable growth? And if so, what is it?
Yes, sure. So the short answer is yes. And why is that? It's because if you look at asset manager jobs, it's about collecting global saving and investing it in real economy. So when you do that, you have the duty and the opportunity to make sure that you channel the money so that it put at work in the right direction to increase and go forward on sustainable growth. When you look at the past cycle, overall the system was built in order to over-optimize all the value chain to bring margin up and growth a bit at any cost. And suddenly we woke up with Ukraine, with COVID, and we realized that the system was not sustainable anymore. And that finally the system we've been building all these years came with a lot of vulnerabilities on the environment, but not only on capital allocation, because mostly when money is free and you can put a lot of leverage, it's very easy to be good in creating value, but obviously very short term. And suddenly, so the system is changing, and probably we're entering a world of lower growth, but this growth will have to be sustainable. And why is it important? Because when you look at the commitments, everyone is talking about the commitments. People say it's not a lot of money. If you look at it, only energy, in order to reach the 2030 halving of CO2 emission, it's around 4 to 6 trillion a year to be invested in the economy. So 4 to 6 trillion, if you bring that to global savings, it's less than 5%, so it seems okay, but then you need people to make sure that it's channeled into the right assets, companies, in order to make sure that the transition is happening. And up to now, what you've been mostly watching in terms of investment is around VCs and technological innovation. This needs to be, but if you look at it and if you listen to scientists and experts, in order to cross 2030 agenda, we need to do the boring stuff. So it's not about technological innovation. It's really about building the infrastructure, electricity, and change of usage. So 75% of the solution, they exist. The topic is how you bring them to scale with the right pace in order to make sure that in 2030 we are still crossing the right level. And for that, asset managers have a key role to play in order to make sure that they go towards helping to scale, because their ability to collect global savings mean they can really help scaling patient capital towards the right solution.
Fantastic. So this is the challenge. You have to scale this money. But the role of an asset manager is not only to collect global savings, send them to the right places, but to give a return to your investors, to make sure that their capital is preserved. Do these two goals come into conflict? How do you square those twin roles that you face?
I think for a long time we've been trying to oppose profit and sustainability. The truth is, you need both. Because if you're not profitable, you cannot invest, so at the end of the day, you cannot build your growth. And if you're not sustainable, at some point in time, the system stops because there is no more resources to make the machine work. Now, the truth is, if you look at where we need to put the money, you can reconcile. You have two big barriers. The first one is time horizon. We have all been raised to be short-term. Whether you look at listed companies that have to publish their result on a quarterly basis with a lot of question on the quarter, which is overall to a company strategic plan quite meaningless, especially with the time accelerating. And so there is no space for investing with an impact that will come not next quarter or at the end of the year, but rather in 5 to 10 years, because we have not yet invented, and it's back to what the person of Mars was saying before, we have not yet invented the magical KPI that will go into your P&L and it will sort out. But if you look really at the topic, you can measure it through risk. Today, many companies and assets start facing the reality of climate risk materializing on their own assets. And when it materializes on your assets, it means financial impact. And today, when you look at the risk matrix of most of the companies, there was a study from one of the Big Four auditors. What you see on the right, on the top, which is biggest probability, biggest impact, it's environment. So at the end of the day, whether you take it from a risk perspective or whether you take it from value creation, it's all the same. So what you need to do is invent how you reconcile that. For example, what we've been doing with our private debt activity is we've been now systematically putting what we call ESG ratchet, meaning that you give a loan with a certain interest rate to a company, you define with the company 2 or 3 criteria that are extra financial criteria, and you say, if you reach your target, I will give you a discount on your interest rate. And if you don't, you will pay more interest rates. So you start to reconcile the fact that if you are not able to take into account your ecosystem, your business is more risky. So you have more beta. Or on the contrary, if you take care of it, then you create more value in the long run, so you have more alpha. So there are ways that start to reconcile, and I think asset manager needs to really find the right solution to make it happen. When you look at private assets, when you do a private equity fund, you're choosing your time horizon. So your investors, they know that they will come there, they will have no liquidity, but in X years, they will have a return. So that's where you can really create thematic fund, and we did one on regenerative agriculture to say, okay, today everyone has a commitment, all the governments have taken commitments, but how do we move at scale? Because once everyone is okay, the reality that you see today is that you have a big cemetery of proof of concept, because everyone is doing small projects, but we are not able to scale them. So then you take the time to put patient capital behind solution and you scale them. And you do that with all the actors so that everyone is aligned in interest.
Fantastic. So I think we've only got time for a couple of questions. So I'd like to open up if we can. Does anyone have anything they'd like to ask about the role of asset managers in sustainable finance? There's one at the back.
Yes, hi. We all know that there's a big issue on retribution, and the poor world is saying, oh, well, we need money to invest, but we need the rich world to pay. Where's the connection when you look at investments in Africa or in other places which are emerging markets, which are harder to justify and harder to get across the line? How does your fund cater for that, please? Thank you.
Thank you. So if I take the example of our regenerative agriculture fund, we made the first investment in the leader of biocontrol and pollination, which is a Belgian company, but is operating in many countries in the world, including Africa, and they have many people on the field. So when you're really looking at the right companies that have already a technology and have the ability to scale, and to scale globally, that's why the fund is global, then you can really make the difference. I think if you look at it, international companies, they don't build frontiers. When they do their overall sustainability strategic plan, they don't have frontiers. They just go where the impact is, and they execute locally, but they will work on their assets in making sure that they will tackle the right level of impact. The problem is, when it comes to government and public policies, then you have the frontiers. And then you are not able, because of trust, because of policies, you are not able to crack that. So I think, ultimately, the finance and the private sector is now starting to act, and we need to accelerate that, because it's probably the best way to make it happen, and to make it happen in kind of all the geographies. And then we need to be very careful, because it's not one size fits all. So you also need to be very pragmatic, trying to make sure that it's embedded in the business model. So if you are a food company, your impact are not the same as if you are a social network. And the problem is with the regulation, it's like we're trying to do everything. So I think it's very important that, and asset managers can help, because then go into the governance or building ESG ratchet or targets, because then you can really make sure that you help the company figuring what is the impact they have in their business model. Because when you see Mars, it's a huge company, they have many resources, but the truth is we finance a very small company and medium company, and they don't have the resources. So on top of the money, you need to make sure that you're able to support them, to show them what would be the right roadmap, in order to make sure that they can actually transform the business and not be incremental, which is what we are today, and we don't have time to be incremental. You're looking at me because I'm too long.
Thank you very much. That's the next panel is going to be on the same topic of transition finance and how we get money towards emerging markets. So stay around. Thank you very much for giving us your time.